This is another guide to helping prepare for the AP exam at the end of the year. This is going to look at the basis of the setup of our free response questions and be able to help us out in answering and some helpful hints in the structure of what to do. At the end of the year, you will have your AP exam, and there will be 4 questions on it. And throughout the year, we will have 2 questions each time we have a unit test, and we will have 50 questions. The the exam at the end of the year will be 100 questions and 4 free response questions. So this is going to look at how these 4 questions are going to set up and what we can do. The first question will be a document-based question. It will give you usually some type of article, some type of writing where you'll have to support or refute, maybe give positives and negatives aspects of it, but based on that article. And that will be a document-based question. Number 2 will be a math question. You will have the strength of this question will be related to a math, maybe a graph, maybe a population count, something to that effect, but it will be basis of math. Now the other questions could have some math in them, but number 2 will definitely be the strong point of the math type question. Number 3, graphic question. As far as diagram, mapping, reading a graph, understanding a graph, that will be part of a question, and sometimes that is on a document based. And then number 4, you'll have knowledge questions, and this will just bring up what information is on that question to see what you know and how to handle that. Part 2 here. As we go through this, where to start. First thing you need to do is read all the questions. There's going to be 4 questions, and you're going to have a strength. Some of you are going to have strength in math. Some of you are going to have strength in maybe pollution, maybe some strength in environment. Just all depends on what's in that question, and you'll need to read all 4 of those, and from there, pick which one you'd like to do first. The one you feel most confident, do that one first. And then second, whatever you want to do second. What do you feel next is best for you? And if math is your weakest, then put that math number 2 question last. So you have the option of where you want to start. Read them all and see what you can do in that structure. Part 3 here, some of the writing, you're going to be asked to do certain things in your writing, and this is talking about the verbs. So one of the things here is the verb describe. When we describe, we need to have that in 2 to 3 sentences. Kind of identify your what's happening and then go on to explain. And that's 2 or 3 sentences. If you notice here, also on there, explain and discuss. They all fall in the same kind of category as having 2 to 3 sentences. Don't be short and brief. Be to the point, but specific. And those will be in those forms right there as far as describe, explain, and discuss. You need to use 2 or 3 sentences in answering that question. If it has identify, use 1 sentence. And we have to answer these questions in sentence form. So if we identify as what do we breathe, that question is answered oxygen. They're not going to count it as far as oxygen. You would put the air that we breathe is oxygen. So it must be a sentence form when we write these answers out. You also have identify and explain, identify and describe. So you'll have that one sentence identifying and 2 to 3 more sentences of explaining. And also you'll have a given example, state, support, justify, give a reason, provide a reason, write an argument, design, why, how. Those are some of the verbiage as far as what this question is asking you to do. Also, with some of our math free response questions, we'll have to calculate. And when we calculate, again on the free response, and we'll practice this through the whole year, we're not allowed to use calculators. We cannot use calculators. So we're going to have to use our pencil and pen and calculate on paper, and always show our work. Always include your units in your work. It has been explained to me that if you don't show your units in your work, and you will not get credit for just showing the units in the answer. So we want to show our work and including our units. Some of our math response will be determining something, giving some type of calculation. We'll also predict, state, create, project, show clearly how. If we go to the next slide, if the question says to identify or list, state the name of the things or process. If it is a list, you will need to write in sentences. So we have to do that just as we discussed a while ago with the verbiage. Second part there, if the question says discuss, explain, and describe, define that topic. What does it cause? How does it work? Why is it done? What causes it? State some characteristics, state an example. You're going to get into more of a detailed explanation here when it has those verbiage. Sentences, part 4 here, use a ballpoint pen. They will give that to you. You may use bullets sparingly, only in a sentence form. So your best bet is just stay with your sentence form. Write clearly and neatly. I'll ask you to write more clearly throughout the year on your writing, so it'll be prepared for readers. Because readers, if they can't read it, they may not even try to grade it. Go into detail that is on the subject and to the point. Be sure to include the obvious. Example, light is necessary for photosynthesis. So go in detail in writing your sentences. But do not add the flowery examples as we saw on the other video. Diagrams, if asked to draw a diagram, be sure to label the components carefully and correctly. As we get to diagramming, usually charting, graphing, we will have to do our X and Y, identify that, and make sure we pinpoint our markings on that plot carefully. And so that will be some practice that we will get, but that's some helpful hints right here with your diagramming. Be sure to label. And then structure. Answer the questions part in the order called for and label them A, B, and C, etc. as they're labeled in the questions. Your question is going to have an A, B, C, and then maybe an I, 2I, 3I, and you will need to label that as you answer your question. You have 90 minutes for these 4 questions, so approximately you have 22 minutes per question. And for the whole year, we will practice that approximately, because you will have, on one day, you will have your multiple choice, which are 50 questions in your 45 to 50 minute class. And then the next day, you'll have your free response, and it will be the same thing, but just answering 2 questions. And so we will kind of have that practice timing throughout the year. Things to avoid. This is not an English essay, so do not make it flowery. Just answer the free response question as it's asked. Don't ramble on. Don't try to just keep wordy. Just get to the point. Don't panic and get angry because you may not know it. There are going to be some things in this at the end of the year that you'll have that we may not have covered, or maybe something that they throw in here. So just be prepared. Don't worry about spelling every word perfectly and using exact grammar. Do the best you can in your writing. If the question asks for 2 examples, only the first 2 examples will be graded. So don't throw out a third one thinking maybe the other one wasn't right. Don't leave questions blank. Make an effort to answer every question. Term dropping will not earn points. Don't just throw those terms in there. Get to the point. Answer the question. And don't spew eco-babble. We don't care what you think or who you voted for. Destroy the environment, green, eco-friendly. Those are not going to get you points. It's answering what knowledge you have. And then don't quit on that test. Don't quit. Continue on. Part 9 here. The math. Show, set up, use your units, set up the problems so the labels cancel each other out. You got to show that work, and make sure you include all the appropriate units. Part 10, graphs. Set up the graph with an independent variable along the x-axis and the dependent variable along that y-axis. So that's what we talked about a while ago, labeling our graph. Mark off axes in equal increments. That's another thing. Make sure we're in equal increments by 5, by 10s, by 2s, but make sure they're all labeled that throughout the axis. Plot points and attempt to sketch them in the curve line. Make sure we plot them. If more than one curve is plotted, write label on each curve. This is better than a legend. And then label each axis. There'll be some questions about government, laws, incentives, things like that. We will cover through the class. You can read through this and look at that, but that will be covered through the year. Environmental effect, ecological consequences, air quality, water quality, soil habitat, GHG, biodiversity. Those are things that we will cover. How will this affect the non-human world? That's what we're trying to study in our yearly work. Economic effect, that's another thing. Our world runs on money, jobs, industry, and we will see how all this plays into what we choose as far as economic or environmental. And then lab designs, we will talk about that and prepare for that as a test. You may read that at this time. But thank you. This is some helpful hints in preparing for your AP exam.